Welcome back. This is episode 203 of the Veterinary Business video show. In this episode we'll hear how to sustain your motivation for success in practice, and we'll learn how to scrape off your executive barnacles. We'll see why you should give your clients an outlet on social media to talk about their pets. We'll hear why you should schedule first and take payment last, and I'll offer you my quick business tip for this episode. I'm John Sheridan, and this is the video show from Veterinary Business. One of the characteristics of individuals seeking a career in veterinary practice is that they're self-motivated. They regard their profession as a vocation, and to be successful they can always find a reason and a strength to complete a task, however challenging it might be, without giving up or needing others to encourage them. So if you're a vet, a practice owner, a manager, or contribute in some other important way to the success of a veterinary practice, I can pretty well guarantee that you're a self-motivated professional buzzing with ideas about your own future career and the future of your veterinary practice. So for you, the problem is probably not how to get motivated, but perhaps how to sustain that motivation day in, day out, over many years, in the good times and when the going isn't so good. Here's a clip from Brendan Burchard, who has some advice.
How do you sustain motivation over the long term? Not just spark it so you feel good each morning, but I'm talking about a series of years. Right? Have you ever had a period of your life where it just was like years of major progress, major breakthroughs, major kicking butt? What was going on then? And if you've never had it, what's the magical thing that those people have who do have that? Here's what they have. They have the ability to sustain motivation. Now, I've been blessed to spend 20 years studying the science of motivation and high performance. And in that process, I've gotten to work with some of the most well-known celebrities, influencers, politicians, people who are moving the needle of the world forward. And in that process, I've also been able to serve over 1 million online students on this topic. So I know for sure how to help you in this area. To sustain motivation, you have to do two things you probably already know. First, you have to focus. Now, before you turn off the video or go to the next one, listen to this. A lot of people have that initial desire, but they don't look at their goals every single day. They don't revisit every single, let's say, Sunday and say, how did I do this week? How did I do in my health, in my relationships, in my career? How did I do with my finances? How did I do with any other goals that I set up? You have to have that daily discipline to look and focus on what you're doing, and that weekly review. You also have to have the ability to avoid distractions. But here's the deal. When you're focusing on something and you're really dialing in, it also brings your full presence into something, so you perform at higher levels. The second thing you need, outside of focus, is sane motivation, is everyday effort. It's the reason you have to set up habits. It's the reason you have to have a daily routine, a morning routine. It's the reason you have to make sure you have a checklist of to-dos each day. I know that sounds so basic, but here's the funny thing. A lot of people think they'll have motivation one day, then they'll put the effort out. It's like motivation first, they think, then effort comes. The motivation inspires the effort, right? It's actually the opposite in the science of motivation. It's with daily effort that motivation comes. I like to tell people this. With momentum comes more motivation. Don't wait for the motivation to go out and take action. Actually, take action first, because just a little bit of progress, a few quick wins, drops dopamine into the brain. We start feeling good and rewarded for our behavior, and suddenly we find ourselves more motivation. So here's the thing. Set 3 goals each day. Knock off each of those 3 goals. If you just did that each and every single day, you'd start feeling more personal power, and you'd start getting ahead.
Now let's see who's on the video show Soapbox. Practice owners sometimes get frustrated when business is quiet, when appointment numbers are down, or when staff performance doesn't match expectations. Then, in an attempt to make sense of it all, they try to rationalize the situation with excuses. It's all to do with the weather, or because the head receptionist is sick, or it's the impact of Brexit, or the new corporate setting up a branch down the road, or some other factor apparently unique to your practice. John Parker describes all these excuses as executive barnacles, which need to be scraped off your psyche to allow you to identify the real reasons why business is not meeting your expectations, and then to identify what needs to be done to get back on track. Here's what he has to say.
Very early on in my practice, without proper training, without knowing what I was doing, without knowing how to increase, change direction, slow down the practice if I needed, basically without being in control of the practice, I started to develop some pretty big fixed ideas on why the practice wasn't busy, why people would leave the practice, why they wouldn't pay, the list goes on. And those fixed ideas, those, kind of excuses or false solutions that we use to rationalize a poor performance are what we call executive barnacles. What they can do, what they result in is a drop in emotional tone for us. We get grumpy. We start to be hard to live with. We start to be hypercritical of all the people around us and basically very, very frustrated with their business and our practice. So the good news is that there is a way of cleaning them up, that you can go with some training and procedure I'll talk about in just a moment. We can go and scrape off those executive barnacles and go back in with an incredibly fresh, very high-powered, successful viewpoint in your practice. And that change in our viewpoint can have a fantastic effect on the practice success itself. So here's for some action steps. Number one, monitor yourself for your barnacles. Monitor yourself for your fixed ideas. If you find that you are rationalizing a poor performance, like let's say you had very, very few new clients that came in on this week, for example, or the month, what have you, or let's say the profit in the month was low. Let's say that you can't find good staff and you find yourself coming up with, well, I've got a special situation. Nobody wants to work in my community. Nobody wants to pay, etc., etc. There's too much competition. That's one I had. When you find yourself coming up with these rationalizations, monitor yourself and say, hey, that's a fixed idea. That's a barnacle. That's a fixed paradigm. Other people call them fence posts because we kind of fence ourselves in on. So monitor those. Importantly, track your numbers. Okay, track the numbers of your practice. We've talked about this in past Whiteboard Wednesdays about gamifying your practice. And the concept behind there is that when you start to track numbers, you can start to see the true performance of your team and what your practice is doing. Because I've had times where I've been extremely busy and you look back and you go, man, we really knocked it out of that week. And then you look at the gross income that was deposited in the bank account and it sucked because there were so many mistakes. Most of your activity was involved in cleaning up mistakes and people forgetting to pay and forgetting to bill and all that kind of stuff that goes on. When in actual fact, you can have weeks that seem slow, but the team gels together and you can pull off the highest ever week. So the bottom line is always, always, always track the statistics, track the numbers in your practice. Okay? And then thirdly, if you find that you're starting to get a lot of these barnacles, like, nobody really cares but me, as I stay working till 8 o'clock at night, there's no good staff, the millennials don't want to work. If you find yourself starting to chalk up a lot of those barnacles, then there's something I want you to consider doing, and that's something called our Executive Certainty Program. What the Executive Certainty Program does is take you in and pull off all these fixed ideas in these barnacles and get you focused on being what you are as a practice owner, and that's an executive. An executive is somebody who is in control of the practice. They know how to speed it up, slow it down, change direction, and they importantly know how to get others to do the job.
Now for a tip from the top in the business world of veterinary practice. Until quite recently, I really hadn't appreciated that the popular social media platforms have become marketing giants, offering businesses valuable data about their customers and, for the most part, a free way to make contact and then to engage with them. Here's a clip in which Eric Garcia, in a post featured on the dvm360.com website, recommends that if you give your veterinary clients an outlet on social media to talk about how much they love their pets, they might also take the opportunity to talk about you and your veterinary practice, hopefully in glowing terms.
What does your pet mean to you is a fantastic campaign that veterinary practices can run all throughout your social media channels. The reason I love this campaign is because one of the most important things that we need to make sure we do with social media is to engage our clients. And this campaign is a fantastic way to engage your clients by having them share stories about what their pets mean to them. When I first asked practices to share this campaign on social media, the results were amazing. There were pet owners who were sharing stories of pets that they currently have, stories of pets from their family members and their friends. And perhaps the most emotional ones were from pet owners who were sharing stories of pets that are no longer with us today and honoring their life. And what was even great about this is there were other pet owners who were comforting pet owners who no longer have a pet. And it became this sense of community that happens on a practice's social media channel. And if you think about it, these are the conversations that we don't often get to have with pet owners in the exam room anymore. This is a real great way to differentiate yourself between you and your competitors in your own backyard, because chances are these are not the conversations that most practices in your area are happening. And so it's a great way to really stand out and also build a stronger bond with your pet owners.
Now for my quick business tip for this episode. My business tip for this episode is based on some more advice from Wendy Myers of CS Vets, in which she suggests what you can do to build a long-term professional relationship between your practice and the clients you serve.
Is every patient who needs follow-up care returning to your veterinary hospital? The Bayer Veterinary Care Usage Study found that only 4% of practices always schedule medical progress exams at checkout. To improve your patient care and get more progress exams scheduled at checkout, practice schedule first, pay last. Now there's two advantages to this technique. The first is that it prevents clients' hesitation to schedule follow-up care that's sometimes caused by sticker shock. Second, appointment reminders will then print on clients' receipts. So tell clients the doctor needs to see Molly for a medical progress exam for her ear infection on February 22nd. Would this same time, 10 a.m., work for you? This method is much stronger than do you want to make your next appointment, which is a yes or no answer. If clients don't schedule medical progress exams at checkout, then enter callbacks in your practice management software. Call the client 1 week before the progress exam is due as a courtesy reminder. Say, Mrs. Smith, did you have an opportunity to check your calendar? The doctor needs to see your dog for his medical progress exam next week. Ear infections can be very painful and develop into a serious condition unless treated and then re-examined to make sure the infection is cleared. When would be a convenient time for you and Jake to schedule his medical progress exam? The doctor can see Jake at 4 on Thursday or 10 a.m. on Friday. Which best fits your schedule? Timing is especially important for puppy kitten visits. If the client doesn't schedule their next pediatric visit at checkout, enter a callback in your software 1 week before services are coming due. If you get voicemail, leave this message. This is Wendy calling for your veterinary hospital. Your kitten is due for his next exam, vaccines, deworming, and intestinal parasite test next week. The doctor wants to ensure timely visits for your kitten so that we can provide preventive care and check his growth and development. Dr. Myers needs to see your kitten between July 24th and 28th. Please call us today to schedule an appointment and then leave your clinic phone number. Saying the doctor's name shows genuine care that the veterinarian is monitoring the kitten's progress. Stating a date range stresses the importance of timely care and will encourage that client to return your call. If you speak to the client, say, this is Wendy calling for your veterinary hospital. Your kitten is due next for his exam, vaccines, deworming, and intestinal parasite test next week. Dr. Myers can see you at 9 a.m. Thursday or 3 p.m. Friday, which works best for you. Now the phrase next week creates a sense of urgency. Known as the 2 yes options technique, asking which appointment time is much stronger than do you want to make an appointment. Practicing schedule first, pay last, and then implementing callbacks for progress exams will help improve the health of your patients, as well as the health of your practice.
So what's my quick business tip? Well, it's this. Just remember Wendy's advice. Arrange the next appointment first and take payment last. Never offer yes or no answers, and always make a courtesy call prior to the next appointment. And create a sense of urgency, and always refer specifically to the name of the appropriate vet. Well, that's about it for now. I'm John Sheridan, and this has been another video show from Veterinary Business. See you next time.